30 years at this factory, and this is what I'm worth." The words hung in the cold air of the assembly line, each syllable fighting against the mechanical hum of robots and conveyor belts. James Mitchell's weathered hands trembled as he held the termination notice, the harsh fluorescent lights casting deep shadows across his face. Around him, the night shift workers froze, their eyes darting between their longtime colleague and the smirking executive in his pristine suit. Nobody noticed the tall figure in the dark jacket, standing silently in the shadows of the quality control station. The Tesla factory floor stretched endlessly in every direction, a cathedral of modern manufacturing where machines danced with human expertise in a precisely choreographed ballet. But tonight, that dance had stopped. The young manager, Marcus Sterling, stood with his tablet displaying efficiency charts, his $3,000 shoes gleaming on the oil-stained concrete. The night shift workers huddled in small groups, their whispers barely audible over the constant industrial symphony. Some pulled out their phones, sensing that something unprecedented was about to unfold. "Mr. Mitchell, the numbers don't lie," Sterling announced, his voice carrying the practiced confidence of someone who had never worked a day on an assembly line. "In the age of automation, sentiment has no place in business." He tapped his tablet meaningfully, not noticing how the mysterious figure had begun moving closer or how the factory's cameras had suddenly turned to focus on this section of the floor. In the next few minutes, everyone would learn a lesson about the true cost of success. Introduction, Part 1. James Mitchell's story was written in the calluses of his hands and the silver streaks in his hair. For 3 decades, he had been the first to arrive and the last to leave, his expertise keeping the assembly lines running smooth as silk. The other workers called him the Machine Whisperer. When robots glitched or production stalled, James knew exactly what to do. He'd trained countless young engineers, sharing knowledge that no manual could capture. Even now, as he stood clutching his termination notice, he could spot 3 different optimizations the new automated system needed. The factory air carried the familiar scent of metal and motor oil, mixed with something else tonight, the acrid taste of injustice. Around him, younger workers who'd learned their craft under his guidance couldn't meet his eyes. They remembered how he'd stayed late to help them master complicated procedures, how he'd covered their shifts when their children were sick, how he'd kept their mistakes from becoming disasters. Now they stood frozen, their silence a testament to the fear that had infected the workplace since Sterling's efficiency initiative began 3 months ago. Introduction, Part 2. Marcus Sterling paced the factory floor like a predator, each step of his Italian leather shoes echoing against the metal and concrete. His gold watch caught the fluorescent light as he gestured at his tablet, his voice carrying the rehearsed compassion of corporate termination training. "It's simply business evolution, Mr. Mitchell. AI systems don't require health insurance or retirement benefits. They don't take sick days or need holidays." He smiled, the expression never reaching his eyes. "Think of it as making way for the future." The words hit the assembled workers like physical blows. A young technician, Sarah Chen, began to raise her hand, then slowly lowered it as Sterling's cold gaze swept over her. The message was clear: speak up, and you're next. In the background, the mysterious figure in the dark jacket had moved closer, his presence still unnoticed by Sterling. The observer's fingers moved rapidly across his phone, his eyes narrowing as he watched the scene unfold. The factory's security cameras continued their unusual focus on this section, their red recording lights blinking steadily in the shadows. Introduction, Part 3. James Mitchell stood straighter, 30 years of dignity fighting against the humiliation. "Those AI systems you're so proud of, Mr. Sterling, I helped install them. I trained them. Every efficiency improvement you're claiming credit for came from workers like me sharing our experience with your machines." His voice carried the weight of decades on the factory floor, each word resonating through the vast space. But I guess that knowledge isn't worth anything once it's been extracted. The tension in the air thickened as Sterling's smile twisted into something uglier. Extracted? That's an interesting choice of words for someone who's about to be escorted out by security. He raised his hand to signal the guards but stopped mid-gesture as a quiet voice cut through the confrontation. I believe I'd like to hear more about this knowledge extraction. The figure in the dark jacket stepped forward, and the blood drained from Sterling's face as Elon Musk emerged from the shadows. The workers' phones were already raised, recording the moment their CEO appeared like an avenging angel in the middle of the night shift. Sterling's tablet slipped from his suddenly nerveless fingers. Rising Action, Part 1. The factory floor transformed into an impromptu courtroom with Elon Musk's presence drawing everyone into a tighter circle. Sterling attempted to recover, straightening his tie with trembling fingers. "Mr. Musk, sir, I wasn't expecting. This is just a routine efficiency adjustment. The AI metrics clearly show—" "The metrics?" Musk interrupted, his voice carrying that characteristic blend of curiosity and intensity. He bent down to retrieve Sterling's fallen tablet, scanning through the data with practiced ease. "Interesting. These efficiency improvements began exactly when—" His eyes moved from the screen to Mitchell, then back to Sterling. 3 months ago, when we implemented the new AI systems," Sterling replied, his corporate confidence cracking under Musk's scrutiny. The young manager failed to notice how the workers were exchanging knowing looks, how decades of shared experience were silently communicating volumes. 3 months, Musk repeated thoughtfully, turning to Mitchell. "And how long did it take you to train these systems, Mr. Mitchell? To teach them everything you've learned in 30 years? The question hung in the air like a prophecy, every worker holding their breath. The security cameras continued their unusual focus, their feeds now streaming directly to Tesla's executive offices worldwide. Mitchell's weathered hands gestured at the assembly line he knew better than his own home. 6 months before that, sir. Myself and the other senior technicians spent every shift teaching the AI our troubleshooting methods. Everything we'd learned about these machines' quirks, their warning signs, things you can't put in a manual." Rising Action, Part 2. Elon Musk's expression shifted, that familiar intensity focusing like a laser on Sterling. "So let me understand this clearly," he said, walking slowly around the factory floor, his casual attire contrasting sharply with Sterling's expensive suit. "You had these experienced workers train our AI systems with their decades of knowledge, and your response was to fire them once the AI had what you wanted?" Sarah Chen, the young technician, who had almost spoken up earlier, found her courage. "Mr. Musk, there's more." Her voice shook slightly, but grew stronger as she continued. "Mr. Mitchell doesn't just know the machines, he knows why they work the way they do. Last week, the AI flagged an efficiency drop, but it couldn't figure out why. James walked through, listened for 2 minutes, and identified a micro-vibration in the panel installation robot that would have caused a major defect in 3 weeks. Sterling tried to interrupt, but Musk held up his hand, his eyes never leaving the assembly line where Mitchell had spent his career. "The AI wouldn't have caught that, would it, Mr. Mitchell?" The question was soft, but carried clearly across the now silent factory floor. Not for years, at least, not until it had seen that specific problem and its consequences. Mitchell shook his head, decades of pride straightening his spine. "No, sir. Some things you can only learn by being here, by feeling the rhythm of the line. These machines, they talk to you, if you know how to listen. We tried to teach that to the AI, but—" Rising Action, Part 3. "But some things can't be reduced to data points," Musk finished, his eyes scanning the assembled workers. The factory's automated systems hummed around them, a symphony of technology that suddenly seemed incomplete without its human conductors. Sterling shifted uncomfortably as Musk picked up a nearby component, turning it over in his hands with the focused curiosity that had built his empire. "Mr. Sterling," Musk continued, his voice carrying that dangerous edge of quiet intensity, "do you know what this part is?" He held up the seemingly unremarkable piece of metal. Sterling's confident facade cracked further as he glanced at his tablet, searching for information that wasn't there. "It's a Model Y rear quarter panel support bracket," Mitchell answered without hesitation. "That specific one needs a slight angle adjustment in the assembly robot. The AI thinks it's within tolerances, but at highway speeds it could create a whistle. Barely noticeable, but not the quality Tesla stands for." Around him, other senior workers nodded, their expertise confirming his words. The phones recording the scene captured every moment as Musk placed the component back with deliberate care. "Experience," he said, the word filling the vast space, "is not just data. Innovation isn't about replacing human knowledge, it's about amplifying it." He turned to Sterling, whose arrogance had melted into visible fear. "You were so focused on efficiency metrics that you forgot what actually makes a factory efficient, but I think it's time for a different kind of efficiency evaluation." Climax, Part 1. Elon Musk pulled up a holographic display from his phone, projecting it into the space between himself and Sterling. Production statistics floated in the air, but these weren't the numbers Sterling had been proudly presenting. These showed something entirely different. "For the past 3 months," Musk began, his voice carrying that characteristic blend of technical precision and barely contained emotion, "our quality control metrics have been telling an interesting story. Surface scans show perfect tolerances. Every data point meets specifications. But our customer feedback," he swiped through several screens, bringing up service center reports. "Subtle issues, small imperfections, things that shouldn't happen with our level of automation." Sterling's face had gone ash white as he recognized some of the reports he'd deliberately buried in the system, marking them as statistical anomalies. But Musk wasn't finished. The hologram shifted to show a series of timestamps. "What fascinates me, Mr. Sterling, is how these issues correspond exactly to the shifts when you removed our most experienced workers from their stations. The AI systems are running perfectly, exactly as they were trained, but they're missing something crucial." Musk turned to Mitchell and the other senior workers. "They're missing the human element, the ability to hear a problem before it becomes a statistic, to feel when something's wrong before any sensor can detect it." The younger workers were nodding now, their phones still recording as their CEO articulated what they'd all felt but couldn't prove. The factory floor had become a courtroom, and justice was about to be served. Climax, Part 2. "The true cost of innovation," Musk continued, his voice filling the factory with quiet intensity, "isn't measured in quarterly reports or efficiency metrics. It's measured in the knowledge we preserve and build upon." He walked over to the assembly line where Mitchell had spent his career, running his hand along the machinery with reverent familiarity. "Every technological leap forward stands on the shoulders of human experience. AI doesn't replace that, it learns from it." Sterling tried one last desperate defense. "But the cost savings, the increased output—" His voice died as Musk turned back to face him, eyes blazing with the same fire that had revolutionized multiple industries. "Cost savings?" Musk's laugh was sharp and without humor. "Let me tell you about costs, Mr. Sterling. The cost of losing decades of expertise, the cost of destroying worker morale, the cost of sacrificing quality for quarterly bonuses." He pulled up another holographic display, this one showing the factory's full operational history. "This facility's reputation was built by people like Mr. Mitchell, people who understand that perfection isn't just about meeting specifications, it's about exceeding them in ways that can't always be measured." The assembled workers watched in stunned silence as their CEO, known for pushing the boundaries of automation, defended the irreplaceable value of human experience. Sarah Chen's live stream of the event had already gone viral, with hundreds of thousands watching as a powerful truth about the future of work unfolded in real time. Climax, Part 3. "Mr. Sterling," Musk announced, his voice carrying the weight of final judgment, "you're not just fired. You're a case study in how not to innovate." He turned to the HR representative, hovering anxiously at the edge of the crowd. "Reverse all terminations from the last 3 months, full back pay and benefits." The relief that swept through the assembled workers was palpable, but Musk wasn't finished. "Mr. Mitchell," he continued, turning to the veteran worker who stood straighter under his gaze, "I'm creating a new position, Master Technical Advisor. You and your fellow senior staff will work directly with our AI development team. Your decades of experience aren't just valuable, they're essential to Tesla's future. Your salary will reflect that." Sterling's face had gone from white to gray as he watched his career implode. "But the board, the efficiency reports," he stammered, backing away as Musk advanced on him. "The board will be very interested in how you manipulated data to hide quality issues," Musk replied, his voice arctic, "and how you attempted to destroy the human knowledge base that makes our AI systems effective. Security will escort you to legal for exit processing." He paused, a slight smile touching his lips. "I believe you know the way. You've sent enough people there recently." The factory erupted in applause as Sterling was led away, but Mitchell's voice cut through the celebration. "Sir, the night shift's falling behind schedule." He gestured at the waiting assembly line, already focused on the work ahead. Musk's smile widened with genuine respect. Resolution, Part 1. The next morning's shift change was unlike any the factory had seen before. Mitchell and his fellow senior technicians arrived to find their security passes upgraded with executive-level clearance, their workstations equipped with advanced AI interfaces. The same technology that Sterling had planned to use to replace them was now a tool in their experienced hands, amplifying decades of knowledge instead of trying to substitute for it. Sarah Chen's video of the previous night's events had exploded across social media, becoming a rallying cry for workers worldwide. Human-AI harmony and Musk justice were trending globally, with millions sharing stories of how automation had affected their own workplaces. But inside the Tesla factory, something more profound was taking shape. Young engineers clustered around Mitchell's workstation, watching in amazement as he demonstrated how to interpret the subtle vibrations and sounds that the AI systems were only beginning to understand. The machines hummed with renewed efficiency, but now it was a true collaboration, human intuition, guiding artificial intelligence, experience-enhancing innovation. Resolution, Part 2. Within weeks, the Tesla factory became a model for human-AI integration across the manufacturing world. Production quality had reached unprecedented levels, with the AI systems learning continuously from the veteran workers' insights. Mitchell's team developed new protocols for training artificial intelligence, methods that preserved and amplified human expertise instead of trying to replace it. The story reached far beyond Tesla's walls. Other companies began re-examining their automation strategies, realizing that true innovation meant building upon human experience rather than discarding it. Sterling's approach became a business school case study in how not to manage technological transition, while Mitchell's new role inspired similar positions in factories worldwide. The factory floor itself had transformed. Where once there had been fear of automation, there was now a sense of pride in being part of something revolutionary. Young workers no longer saw their experienced colleagues as relics of the past, but as essential guides to the future. The machines still danced their precise ballet, but now they moved in true harmony with their human partners, each making the other better. Resolution, Part 3. 1 month later, Elon Musk returned to the factory floor for a different kind of inspection. He found Mitchell in his new office, surrounded by both holographic displays and the worn tools of his trade. The veteran technician was teaching a group of AI developers how to recognize the subtle patterns that only decades of experience could reveal. "You know," Musk said, leaning against the doorframe with a thoughtful expression, "everyone thought I was the biggest advocate for replacing humans with AI. But that was never the goal. The future isn't about machines replacing people. It's about finding the perfect balance between human wisdom and technological power." Mitchell nodded, his weathered hands moving through the holographic data with practiced ease. "The machines learn from us, and we learn from them. That's real progress." He smiled as a young engineer successfully identified a potential issue just from the sound of a distant servo motor. And some lessons can only be passed on person to person. The video of that night had become more than viral. It had become a movement. But the real revolution was happening quietly, in factories and workplaces around the world, where experience and innovation were finally learning to work as one.